And don't think for a second there's anything you can do about it all, mighty Alpha, because you, better than anyone, know the law.
Werewolf laws state that if a male rejects his mate while she was pregnant, he not only gives up his right to claim her as his, but he gives up his right to the child. And so if the mother decides that she doesn't want him around, he cannot take her child from her. He grabbed my mother's hand again tighter than he previously did, which made her cry out in pain. That was more than I could bear. Every ounce of self-control. I had flown out the window. I didn't know when I moved from where I was until I heard my mom gasp. I realized I had my claws in my father's neck squeezing his throat. That's when I realized my wolf had taken over. My wolf Xavier hardly ever makes an appearance as I rarely need him to fight, because mom taught me how to fight and build up my strength in both human and werewolf form. But I guess the sight of our mother being treated that way by that asshole was more than he could bear, and for once I wasn't objecting that he took over, but I had to take back control, because I knew my wolf would kill him, and I know mom wouldn't want that. So I took over from my wolf and growled in my father's face, then said to him, "If you ever touch my mother again, I will rip you to shreds." I could hear his pack growling, but I didn't care. I turned to all of them and said, "My mother and I will be here for a month, and if I ever, and I mean ever, see her crying, frowning, or anything bad happens to her because of you or anyone else in this pack, I will kill every single last one of you from the smallest of Omega straight up to the Alpha," I said, turning to my father. My claws were still in his neck and he was bleeding heavily. "If you don't believe, I can take down your pack by myself, then go ahead and check with the council, because I have done it already, and I won't hesitate to do it again. So if anyone, even as simple as a whisper about my mother the wrong way, the Howling Moon pack will be erased from history. And as for you, daddy dearest, I suggest you stay fuck away from my mother, because I'm already itching to kill you. She didn't keep me away from you for 17 years. He looked at me confused as well as everyone else, so I decided to elaborate. "I found out you were my father when I was 4 years old, but ever since I was born I knew that you rejected my mother. I don't know how I know, but I did when I was 4. I asked her about it, and she told me what happened. Ever since then, she has been asking me over and over if I wanted to meet you. But every time she asked I said no, because I didn't want to meet you. I've had an itching to kill you ever since I was 4 years old, because you broke my mother's heart. But instead of hunting you down and killing you, like my wolf and I wanted, I decided to make sure I spend every day making up for all the love my mom lost to you, asshole. So if you mess with her, I won't hold back again. I will kill you and let your family watch before I slaughter them too," I say before removing my hand from his throat. He fell to the floor gasping for air. A few pack members ran up to him and carried him off to the pack doctor. I turned to see my mom standing there with shock written over her face. I walked up to her and hugged her. She stiffened at the sudden contact, but then relaxed when she realized it was me. I felt her yawn in my shirt, so I picked her up and brought her to the room and placed her on the bed, tucking her in. She yawned again and shut her eyes. I kissed her on her forehead and whispered goodnight. "Voglio bene alla tua mamma." I love you, Mom. "I love you too, my sweet boy," she said before falling asleep. I went into the bathroom to take a shower to calm down and get all this blood off me. My shower lasted for an hour. I got out and brushed my teeth, then wrapped a towel around my waist. I went into the closet and put on boxers, black sweatpants, then got into bed. I stayed there for a few minutes before I became sleepy, and finally, darkness took me over.
I woke up wondering how I got in bed, then everything that happened yesterday came rushing back. Keyshawn found out Alessandro was his son and as expected didn't take it too well. I, however, didn't expect Alessandro to attack him and threaten everyone else even if he did push me into a wall. It's all my fault. I never should have come back here even after all this time, even after becoming so strong. I'm still the weak little girl like I was 17 years ago. I didn't even realize I was crying until I heard Alessandro ask me what's wrong. He got up from his bed on the other side of the room and rushed to my side in an instant. "Mom, what's wrong? Are you okay? Did anyone say something to you? Tell me who it is. I swear to the moon goddess I will rip their throats out." "Alessandro, I'm fine. I was just thinking and my emotions got the best of me," I said with a smile to let him know I'm okay. He sighed in relief as I reassured him I was fine. "Mom?" he said in a low tone. I looked up at him to see his face filled with regret and disappointment. "I'm sorry about how I behaved yesterday. I know I lost control and behaved violently after I promised you I wouldn't, but I couldn't help it. He was hurting you and my wolf took over and I was so angry. I only wanted to protect you. I'm sorry I broke my promise. I hope you're not mad at me," he said, hanging his head low. "I'm not mad at you, son, and I understand why you did what you did. It's my fault. I shouldn't have made us come here in the first place, but you do know you're gonna have to apologize to your father." I heard Alessandro growled at what I said. "Alessandro, I say in a stern voice. He is the Alpha and we are staying in his pack. I'm not saying you should let him talk to him or forgive him, but you need to apologize if we're gonna be staying in his territory. He sighed in defeat as he agreed to what I said. After our talk, I took a shower and got dressed, then Alessandro and I went over to Keishawn's office. I knocked and James's third in command opened the door. He looked at me then at Alessandro. The Alpha isn't in as yet, but you guys can come in and have a seat. The Alpha should be here any minute, he said as he left. I thanked him and we entered the room and took a seat in front of his desk, and waited. A few minutes later, Keishawn walked into his office. His eyes went as wide as saucers when he saw us, then his face became stoic as he closed the door and walked towards his desk to have a seat. Rosalyn, he said, his face still blank with no emotion. I was not expecting you. How can I help you? I sighed internally then said, Alpha Black, I came to apologize for myself and my son's behavior yesterday. I turned to Alessandro and he sighed before saying, Alpha Black, I apologize for attacking you yesterday. Keishawn looked taken back for a moment before nodding his head at us both, then said, I must apologize for the way I acted. I was just in shock. It will never happen again. However, I heard Alessandro say, cutting Keishawn off as we both looked at him. My promise still stands. If anyone hurts my mother, I will kill them. Alpha, I'm not telling you this as a threat to your pack, but as a warning, so everyone can live in peace. While we're here for the month, I ask that you keep your pack members in line. You are an Alpha. You know what it's like to have an overprotective wolf, and how hard it is to control them. Once someone you care for is hurt, so keep your people in line, and we'll have no problems. Also, I would like to request a meeting with you. Once your duties are completed, and you're not busy, we need to talk. You know where to find me when the time comes, he said as he got up and walked through the door. I sighed and thought to myself, this month will be a long one.